In the 14th century, the bow is a decisive weapon. In the 15th, the cannon smashes ancient walls, then takes to the open field. The handgun revolutionizes warfare, but the sword is symbol of a warrior tradition that won't die. Everywhere, European gunpowder armies triumph. August 26, 1346. After months of fighting to gain the French crown, the English king, Edward III, draws up his weary army near the village of Crecy in northern France. For 1,000 years, the horseman has dominated the battlefield. The English are outnumbered, but they have faith. Faith in their firepower. Faith in the long bow. Years of fighting the Scots and Welsh have taught Edward new tactics to exploit the longbow's potential. As day breaks at Crecy, Edward set his defenses. He dug holes to trap the French cavalry. He studded his front line with stakes to impale enemy horses. But at the core of the English battle plan was one decisive weapon, the long bow. It was tall as a man and made from the wood of the yew tree. It took 100 pounds of force to draw and was deadly at 200 yards. It took more strength to draw than the crossbow, but it could be fired faster and farther. As the English archers prepared for battle, Edward arrived with his knights. But today at Crecy, the English cavalry would not fight on horseback. Edward dismounted his knights and stood them among his archers in a V-shaped formation known as the harrow. The French were confident of victory. They outnumbered the English 3-1. Against the English longbow, the French now deployed the crossbow. The French King Philip had hired 6,000 mercenaries from Genoa. These soldiers, expert crossbowmen, marched down the hill toward the English defenses. A chronicler of the time, Geoffrey Le Baker, described the scene.
The first charge was made by the French against the English with resounding trumpets, drums and kettle drums with strident clarions. And with shouting almost like thunder, the crossbowmen of the French advanced. none of their quarrels reached the English.
The English were out of range of the Genoese crossbows. But the Genoese were well within reach of the English longbow.
The English archers then advanced one step forward and shot their arrows with such force and quickness that it seemed as if it snowed.
The Genoese threw down their weapons and fled. This so disgusted the French king, he ordered his mounted knights to attack. The French knights charged through the confused lines of retreating crossbowmen. The ground was soft after rain. Within seconds, the French attack became a churning, muddy mass of chainmail, horses, and men, all writhing under the hail of English arrows. The French were in disarray. A few of their knights were driven into the English lines by the sheer impetus of their charge.
They were beaten down with axes, lances, and swords. And in the middle of the host, many Frenchmen were crushed to death without any wound, simply by the weight of numbers.
After 16 fruitless charges, the French withdrew, utterly defeated. The English remained in battle formation throughout the night. At sunrise, Edward's messengers found 1,542 French lords and knights dead beside 20,000 men and horses. The English lost 2 knights and 80 men. The English victory at Crecy stunned Europe. To the Europeans, English tactics based on the firepower of the longbow came as a complete surprise. A new day was dawning for the infantryman. The horseman would have a place on the battlefield for centuries to come, but he would no longer dominate as he had for the last 1,000 years. The days of the mounted knight were over. But the whiz of English arrows was not the only sound of firepower at Crecy. Edward had brought to the battle a handful of bombards, early cannon that hurled stone balls. The bombard was loud, inaccurate, and did little more than frighten the French horses. Yet it delivered the opening shot in a revolution that would transform war and civilization forever. Gunpowder.